Hang on.
At this time, we will reconvene our budget workshop for 2022, 2023. And at this time, we will reconvene our budget workshops for 2022 and 2023. At this time, before we get started into our meeting, we're going to have a moment of silence for Dot Moat, who passed away and was a frequent person here in our meeting room. So at this time, I'll ask for us to remember her in a moment of silence. Amen. Brian, we'll turn it over to you. I understand you've got 2 or 3 things.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Point of order. How is this going to work tonight? What's the procedure?
The recommended procedure would be for us to take the expansion items on page 211, and we'll just take them one at a time to see if we have votes to add each one of them.
Make a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we're just getting started with this meeting. We're talking about moving forward. You've got a mental agenda. I have none. You say we're going to go through the expansion budget and look at it one by one. Point of fact here is that I have been here for each one of these budget meetings. I've gone through the annual budget. I've looked at it closely. I think there's a lot of fat in there. We're getting ready to move into a very hard economic time in America. It's already hard enough right now, but I think it's going to get worse as it keeps getting worse each and every day. Keep thinking it's going to get better. The problems are transitory. I do not think they are. They're systemic. And yet we are spending more and more and more as if that is going to make things better here in Beaufort County. I think it's going to make everything harder for the taxpayer, the people that foot the bill, the people that carry us on their backs. And we work for them, each and every one of us. Now, we have a Republican majority sitting up here on this board, 5-2. I would like to put forth that we ask the manager to take this budget back and slice it by 5%. Now, I've talked about a 10% reduction through the fund balance. After looking at this book, going through it each and every day, there's a lot of items that don't need to be in there. A lot of these agencies we're funding are awash in money, and they just want to live at the same high lifestyle they lived at through COVID. And I'm telling you right now, the people of Beaufort County cannot stand it. Some of them may be able to stand it right now. Maybe by the end of the year, they're going to join the list of those that can't stand it too. So I put forth the motion that we ask the manager to take it back. We've gotten to the 30th of June to pass this and find 5% in that budget.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I think it's our job to crank this stuff out. I mean, you're welcome to let the county manager do what he can, but isn't that what we do?
That's what we're supposed to do. I mean, we're supposed to go through the budget. If there's a particular item you want to take out, we'll put it to a straw vote to see if it goes into the change, whether it's to come out or whether it's to add in. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
There's plenty of precedent for sending budgets back. We've sent them back over the years to be reduced various percentages and brought back to us. If you're talking about an overall reduction in the budget, the manager is the best qualified person to do that, simply because this is his budget right now. He prepared this budget. This is not our budget until we vote on it. So he would be the one to reduce the budget if the commissioners decide that there's too much fat in the budget. Reduce it by 5%. Because this budget, by the time you do these pay increases and all of these other things you're talking about as much as a 10% increase in spending this year. It could go that high. So increases in budget this year become taxes in future years. Only in most cases, the commissioners that did the increased spending are not there to face the music. Somebody else has to do that. So rather than us strong-arming a 5% reduction, I think we need to give it to the manager and let him do a 5% reduction and bring it back. That doesn't mean we don't go forward with whatever we intended to do tonight.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion on the floor? All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, Brian, you want to start with your items before we get into the expansion?
Yes, sir. So again, we've presented a budget to you. We made a recommended budget presentation to you. If the board has specific items you'd like for us to look at a staff level, we're happy to do that. But I think, as I've heard the board say, this is essentially now your budget. It became your budget when I presented it to you, and it is how you get done for your constituents what you want to get done. So we're at your mercy to provide you information, to do whatever you want with the budget. There are a couple of items that we talked about during the budget that are budget related, but are not necessarily items that are either service expansions or other. And I just wanted to make sure that we got these taken care of because we talked about them and the board kind of stopped on it. We originally talked, when I presented the budget to you, that I'd had a conversation with the Mideast, and the Mideast was asking that we increase their budget, their service budget. What we had recommended was 10% or $6,000. That was not something that was put in the recommended budget because I didn't get that information from them until last week. We had already presented the budget to you. So I talked about that, and what I need to know is that something you're okay with for us to start off or not? You can handle that as you go through the budget. I just want to make sure that we at least, that I get some information about it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I make a motion that we keep the same amount of money that we had last year. Stuff gonna be a tough year. They'll be glad to have that business.
Are you speaking in terms of what Brian is discussing now?
Yeah, we're talking about straw votes. Here's your first one. We won't have to talk about it again.
I was just saying, make sure your mics are on.
I pushed it, didn't come on.
It's on there.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Would you restate your motion?
The motion is that we keep the amount of money we're spending with Mideast this year the same as last year, and I think they'll be glad to have the business come sometime next autumn.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Yes.
I went through the bills for the last year, and I got to tell you, I can't tell from looking at the bills what we're getting billed for. Okay? It's a whole lot of just generic stuff. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure that. I guess I would support that motion.
Any other discussion? Again, we're paying them now, is it 60, Brian?
It is 60 currently, and that is for the planning contract that we have with them. You've engaged them to do planning services for the county for the last at least 5 years, I believe. And what they're saying is they need an increase in that service contract. And they actually asked us for 10, and I said, 10's probably not going to fly because once we get to the point where we start bumping up against the same cost of hiring an employee, you probably won't make it. So our recommendation to you was 10%, which is $6,000. Their justification for that was there's more planning operations going on now. There's more growth going on in the county. They're having to, we've come out of COVID now, so we're having more face-to-face meetings and those things. So that was their request. You see what our recommendation was, and we'll take your direction from there.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Let me say this, John, were they billing by the hour on what you looked at?
No, they weren't. They show billing so many hours being billed, but it's not specific as to what they're actually doing. They get a long list of things they do that they throw in there. But it's not saying I did this specific thing for 4 hours.
But what we would do, if they're billing us by the hour, if you kept the budget the same it is, if they went over hours, they would just continue to bill us. We would probably pay it. It'd have to come to the commissioners, but we'd probably pay it.
So the way the contract is currently set up is that it is an hourly bill with a not-to-exceed fee. So they bill us hourly based on the planning work that they do, and it's a not-to-exceed $60,000 a year contract. So what they've come back and said is, we've exceeded that amount. We haven't billed you more than $60,000, but we've exceeded that amount, and what we're asking for you to do is consider adjusting that. Like I say, they asked for 10, we said 6, because they're doing more work is what they're saying, based on that. But it is a not-to-exceed number.
Brian, refresh me, when we had our own planner, salary plus fringe benefits, what did that cost? Was it?
Yeah, it was probably 85 or 90,000
Okay.
when you wrap it all together for a planning director position.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So the other piece, and I know there's been some discussion, last year the board, when they adopted the longevity policy, the policy was written specifically to exclude shared positions. So that excluded cooperative extension because they are a shared, we have a contract with them to provide their services. We send money into NC State and to do that. It was written specifically that way. That's what the board approved. There was a request by NC, and the reason it was written that way was because they are not county employees. They are employees of NC State University. And our position on that in writing the policy was you should be compensated or addressed in those issues by your home employer, essentially. So if you're an NC State employee, then you should be addressed by NC State. And if NC State has a policy that says you should get longevity, you should get it from them. Our understanding, and I think the Cooperative Extension Director spoke to the board about it. I know he's spoken to a couple of individual commissioners, but NC State has an interesting policy. Some of their folks are, and I think it's staff members are eligible for longevity. Faculty members are not considered eligible for longevity. So you've got some folks at Cooperative Extension who are considered staff. They are eligible under NC State's piece for longevity, but the agents are considered faculty, so they're not eligible for longevity. So the director was asking, would the county go back and look at that and consider including cooperative extension in the longevity policy because they're not covered by NC State, and just to look at that. So that would be the question I had for the board.
Okay.
Well, there's usually staff benefits there's usually faculty benefits that staff doesn't get. I just don't think we ought to start crossing the line on this stuff and entering ourselves into other people's payroll because they're ultimately going to want us to pay for it. And it just makes a mess out of the compensation system. I move that we keep things as they are.
All right. Motion and second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay.
So the next item I had for you was, remember we talked when the sheriff's office had the conversation about their budget, and Chief Deputy Rose spoke about it, and I brought that in, was the Assistant 911 Director position. We talked a little bit about that in our pay plan, there is a position that exists. It's not currently listed in this pay plan. It got pulled out, and I think Chief Deputy Rose explained that in the pay plan, it showed 2 directors for some reason at different levels, and it should have been corrected. It came back to the board for a correction, and I think there was a little bit of confusion from the board side that may have thought that we were adding a position, and we're not adding a position. We're simply putting that position at the assistant level where it should have been, where it was already existing in the plan. It just wasn't written correctly. So Chief David Rose is here if you have any questions, but I need for clarification. What we'd like to do is put that in where it was supposed to be. There's no additional money needed. It's simply fixing that, and there is no new position added for it.
Motion to approve. I'll second that. Other discussion?
Are you going to have 2 assistant positions or 1?
Okay. Other comments? All right. All those in favor of the recommendation, raise your right hand or motion. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, last item I have for you, and I know this would fall into your service expansion if there was. We asked you when Economic Development did their piece to give them an opportunity to review some things. I had a conversation day before yesterday, in the last week, with Brad. They've been approached by East Carolina University. They have a student who is a part of the Lead for America program, and it's an economic development related program where there would be a partnership with us, or it's proposed there would be a partnership with us and the City of Washington, where the City of Washington would contribute $10,000, the county would contribute $10,000, and then the Lead for America would contribute the remaining amount, and we would have a year's worth of work from an economic development individual to assist in economic development projects. They would be required to do meaningful work and have a project that they were doing, and we would have them for an entire year. It would give us some additional help. It would allow us to do some joint work with the city, because we would both be participating in that, and it would be a program that would give that person, economic development experience and allow them to get into the field and be able to do some work. So that was a proposal that they had. I don't know if you want to consider that now, or whether you want to wait as we go through service expansion.
When would that start?
July 1 or so. I mean, it would be a year's worth. So if it didn't happen July 1, if it happened August or September 1, it would still be for a 12-month period.
So I'm assuming this is sort of like having an internship for a year?
Well, it is not an internship, and the reason they call it not an internship is because with an internship, they don't feel that. Then in an internship, you're getting meaningful work.
Okay.
They specifically say this is not an internship, so you're not just following somebody around learning their job. You're doing meaningful work. You're handling projects. You're working with the existing folks, and you have to do a specific project. And our thought was that obviously since we would both, if the board approved it, since both groups would be contributing to it, then the joint industrial park out there would be a great project for somebody, because they would be using both the services. But that's for your consideration.
Good.
I just think it came up too sudden, and I really don't see anything for a person to do. I don't think we should do it. I move that we not do it.
Second. Any discussion?
Well, it would occur to me that instead of the industrial park, one of the big things that's going to need management and oversight is the airport, and the $4 million that would be given to there for economic development. And in my view, nobody's looking at that. Nobody's paying attention to that. Certainly the airport authority doesn't care about that very much. So, I mean, that's a possibility of that.
I would agree with you on that, and it's not that nobody's looking at it. They are looking at it, but we have to be really careful that our folks aren't taking the lead on the project, because it's not necessarily a county project. But we do have a lot of benefit from that, and there's a lot of work that we're working in partnership with them. But I would agree with you. I mean, the money was specifically given to the Airport Authority Board for work out there, and we have to be careful about crossing too much, but that would be a good project.
Mr. Manager, I know you just came up, but how will we determine whether we're working for the county project and the city project? How would we do that?
Well, I think that's why you would look for a shared project, so that they would be
And
concentrated.
what shared projects do we constantly have right now, besides the industrial park out in Cherry Run?
Well, I think the industrial park, as Commissioner Ribbles mentioned, the airport, I think there is obviously, we have a lot of, we would have input and help in working on that industrial section. So there's a section of that funds were provided by the state that's off airport property that we would be working hard to recruit industries to, airport-related or aircraft-related, airport-related industries too, because it's adjacent to the airport.
I make a motion that we,
Whoa.
Okay.
We made the right motion not to do it.
Any other discussion before we vote? Okay.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, you know, I'm somewhat out of the loop of economic development, being a conservative county commissioner, and I've been pushed out there. In fact, it was just a few days ago, I found out we hired an economic developer you probably knew months ago, or at least weeks ago. But I do know that they've got an economic developer, a new one, and about 2 or 3 personnel out there. And that should be enough to do what we need to do. I'm not for spending any more money, none.
They got an economic developer where?
Here, we've got one in Beaufort County.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Out there at the industrial park.
we've got one that's centrally located
Yeah.
within the county, but
Yes.
not located at the industrial park.
That's where his office is.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
it's
where he
not-
works out at.
Yeah.
Well, it was, back when I was in Duluth, he was out there.
No surprise. Okay, you've heard the recommendation or the motion. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All those opposed?
I make a motion that we allocate the $10,000 for this ECU student.
Is there a second? Okay, and a second. Any more discussion?
I want to tag on to that by saying that his job description be presented to the Board of Commissioners before he goes to work.
That's fair.
Is that the first and second go along with that?
Second does.
Well, since you don't want him here to start with, I hate to let you tell us how to use him since we're gonna get blamed for paying for it, but I will accept it.
Well, I'm not telling you how to use him because frankly, I don't think you have a way to use him. That's why I wanted that tacked on there, because it's going to be real interesting to see what he's doing.
Hood, could we say after the city and the county comes up with some kind of memorandum of understanding or the project, that it come to us?
Well, I don't care as long as it's presented before he goes to work.
I mean, okay. All right. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed?
Let me ask a point of order question. Where is the clerk, and who's taking notes and who's taking minutes of this meeting?
So the clerk is in Greenville with her mother at
Okay.
the hospital, and the meeting is being recorded, so she'll pull it from there.
She'll pull it from there. Okay.
Okay. Brian, did you have any other items before we get to the expansion?
No, sir, I'm good. Thank you for indulging me on those pieces so that we could get those cleared up. Thank you.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, if you'll turn to page 211, we'll start and just go through the list. And if somebody is inclined, make a motion, and then it will not require a second. We'll do a straw vote, and if it fails, if somebody wants to make a counter to it, change the amount or number or something like that, then we'll entertain that, and then we'll go to the next item. So,
Point of order.
yes.
Do I understand that none of this will be placed in the budget unless it receives a positive vote in here tonight?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Which means it has to have 4 votes for it to be in. So, The first one is the COLA under the general fund.
I'd say 5%.
You want to move that we add the 5% to the budget?
I do.
Okay.
Everybody else, everything, that's the one that's there.
No, you can say whatever you want to.
Well, after presenting the manager, after hearing the manager talking about what the cost index went up, I say we just do at least 6 or 7.
Well, let me throw this in. You know, a year ago, the inflation rate was something like 3%.
And we gave 2.5.
It's only been in the last, 3 or 4 months that we have reached these high values. So I think we're moving too fast. The taxpayers, the people that are going to be writing the checks to pay this, they're not getting a 5% increase. I can tell you that. And I'm not going to vote for a 5% increase.
I don't know what the taxpayer's getting in terms of an increase.
Well, you need to be more alert.
Well,
Some will be losing their jobs.
That's all I can tell you.
The only comment I've got is that, you know, inflation goes up. If we relive back in the 80s where we had inflation that reached 13%, I don't know of anybody that was matching that with the cost of living. So I don't, to get to your point, Ed, you know, if you look at a 12-month rolling average, I don't think we're going to end up at 8 or 9. I think it's going to be less. And that's why I'm really not in favor of doing more than the 5. I think 5 is a reasonable number. But I can tell you this, if something is not done and it goes to 13, we're probably not going to do 13 or 12.
The thing about it is, Frankie, we have never caught up yet. We're still trying to catch up from the past. I mean, just like the commissioner just said, last year it was 3.5, we gave 2%. We just done a new cost employees study, and we drug it out for 2 years. And I mean, and to me, it's just like, I mean, employees deserve better.
Okay, well,
Vote on it, up or
Well,
down.
one of the things that you can always do, if in the middle of the year, you can review this, and if inflation is raging, you can adjust it in the middle of the year.
that's true.
Vote it up or down. That's all you have to do, vote it up or down.
Well, we got 2 on the floor, so we'll want to start out with the 5, or you want to start out with a higher number?
Start up with the higher.
Okay, we'll start out with the 7. All those in favor of the 7, raise your right hand. Okay. All those in favor of the 5%, raise your right hand. Okay. All right. The next one is the general fund, the increase, the 401k contribution for non-law enforcement officer employees. And that number for 3%, which would raise it from 2 to 5%, is $448,000. And I think that's one that has some reimbursements, if I remember.
Yes.
Yeah, has reimbursements.
with the
So, Mr. Chairman, you've got those numbers?
Yes,
We
yes.
provided those numbers to you.
And I mean, she's got it broken out in here. If you increase it by 1%, the gross amount less the reimbursement of 36 means that if you increased it from 2 to 3%, it would be $111,564. And then, of course, if you raised it 2% from 2 to 4, then that would raise that number up twice that, so that'd be 222. And then if you went all the way to 5, then it would be 3 times, so that'd be 333,000.
Let me ask a question to the finance director. Are you keeping a running total of the increases and decreases?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, look, you just gave 5%. Now you're giving another 1 or 2%. I mean, the public is not getting this kind of treatment. I just don't think it's wise to keep rolling out money from the Treasury with what's going on in the United States.
Other comments? I'm trying to find a note that I've got. Okay, one thing that's in the budget, just so you understand this, in the budget, we're increasing the state retirement contribution that the county makes from 12.15, is it 11? Daggone it. It's about a 1% increase. Have I got that right? So my thought is that we're already, it's not a 401, but we're increasing our cost by 1% roughly on the retirement. And that's both for law enforcement as well as for the county. And in the school budget, it increases theirs to 24%.
Yes, so just for the board's information, the way that works on state retirement is that the State Retirement Board, the Treasurer's Office, has the ability to change employers' contribution. They can do that themselves. They can say to state and they can say to local government employers, your contribution level is now X amount. They have the authority to do that under theirs. They do not have the authority to change employees' contribution without it going back to the General Assembly for a vote. So that's why you see what they're trying to do is make sure what the state treasurer is doing is he is trying to make up for some of the issues they've had over the years with bad returns. They were using some bad numbers. They were saying we're going to get a return on our investment of X amount. They used that for years and they overshot it and they didn't use the good numbers. And essentially the bond rating agency came in and said, we don't care what number you use, we're using this number because we know this is what kind of return you're going to get. So instead of the state retirement fund being 97, 98% funded, it dropped them down to 93 or 94. So the state treasurer's efforts are to try to get the fund back up higher, 97, 98% funded. So they did a program to do that. It was called the eCrest program, where they bumped the employer contribution. Y'all have heard about that. We've done it to you every year. So that's the reason, because that was a question we had, because I actually sit on the retirement committee for the North Carolina Association of City and County Managers, and we have those conversations with the state treasurer all the time. That was the first question we asked was, okay, when do you start adjusting the employees part of it? And they said, probably never, because it would take a vote of the General Assembly to do that, and the General Assembly's not going to vote to do that. So that's why you see it changing on the employer side, not the employee side. And
Brian,
that may have been too much information, but just wanted you to know it.
Is there that much difference in our county employees' retirement plan and the school's retirement plan?
Actually, the local government plan that local governments are under, and that would be cities and counties, is funded better than the state employees, state and teachers retirement system. It is funded at a higher level. And the reason that is because the treasurer, when the gentleman who's from Oxford, who was the state treasurer, Richard Moore, when Richard Moore was state treasurer, you remember the state ran into some financial issues. The state stopped contributing to the retirement system for a year or so. And they were told, oh, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Well, everybody knows actuarially you can't stop doing that. So the local government retirement fund is actually funded better than the state retirement fund is.
Okay. Any other comments on
It would
the
seem to me
401?
that it'd be reasonable, if you got to do a COLA, or not a COLA, but the 401k, that you go up just 1% and see how the employees react to that. and give them an opportunity to either buy in at a greater level or not.
So that was the way we designed it. It's a match no matter what. So if an employee doesn't participate, you're not participating. So that was the way it was designed originally, and we followed that suit in the additional, just to try to say, well, if you're doing 5 for law enforcement because you have to, then at least give the opportunity to match up to 5 for your regular employees.
Are you making a motion that we do 1%, John?
I'll make a motion, we do 1% increase in 401K.
From 2 to 3%?
Right.
Okay. Any other comments? All those in favor of that, raise your right hand. You don't have to have a second. Okay. All right, that fails.
5%?
So can I get, we were having a hard time seeing hands.
I didn't see it.
Those in favor was John and myself, so there was only 2 in favor.
I didn't vote, because I was still talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Did you want to say something?
No, it's good, but I was in the affirmative for that. I would have voted for that.
Okay.
I thought it's 3 to 4.
So it was 3 in favor and 4 opposed.
I recommend that, since it's the match of their own participation, I recommend to go ahead and do it as the manager recommended, 5, let them match it. That's not, you don't go out ringing their arm and make them join it, do you, manager?
No, sir. The way we had proposed it was if the employee did not participate, the county did not participate. That's exactly the way you do right now. The county will match up to 2%, but the employee has to put in 2% to get matched at 2%. So it's the same piece.
I would say match it just like law enforcement. It's their call whether they want to raise it or not.
Well, it's already failed, 1%.
Yeah, but you can put another one out there, because if they're 1%, don't mean you can put another one, can you?
Okay.
Vote this 5% down.
All right. All those imagine that going from 2 to 5, which is a 3% increase, and the net cost would be $333,000.
3 percentage points.
Yeah.
That's 100% participate.
Right, that's right,
Yeah,
that's
put it all
right.
out there.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Did you get that, Brian? All right, dental insurance. Do you want me to sing for a minute and give y'all time to say something? Is there no motion? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. The county manager's office, our communication, or the proposed communication director that we've discussed in the past.
I make a motion, we approve it.
Okay.
I'll second it, and I hate,
Well, you don't have to second
oh,
it.
that's right.
Go ahead.
I hate that we have to do it, but I don't think the thing's gonna work, what we want, or what I'd like to envision, as far as communicating to the public. I just don't think it'll work without somebody, because there's nobody to do this kind of work. And this does give us somebody to come to and say, why didn't this get done? So I hate to spend that kind of money, but I guess that's the only way we're gonna get it to work.
I got something.
Yes.
I disagree with you, Randy. I think work would get done. I think there are people in this county that can do it at probably a quarter. Now, that's going to mean us not hiring somebody, not having a ministry of truth, misinformation board here at the county, somebody to say, this is what's really happening. And while some of us may be sitting up here and know that ain't right, and we're going to be in direct conflict with what the official voice of the county is saying, which is going to make it less and less official. So my idea is, in this year, where we have very little money, and going to have even less at the end of this year. I really think that is I'm usually right on these things, and this is my prognosis for the future. Yeah, if you're going in one direction and I'm right, that means you're wrong. So basically, what I'm going to say is we can find somebody for a quarter of the money out there in the general public that needs the job, that can use our fabulously expensive equipment to make it work and then get it to Suddenlink or whomever. Distribute. We're just not going to have a ministry of propaganda here for the county.
Well, I think, Randy was doing this for about $25,000 a year. Now all of a sudden we're hiring somebody to do it for $95,000 a year. And it was all caused because of jealousy among commissioners about who was speaking. So taxpayers just need to be aware. This whole problem was created by commissioners, by politics within the Board of County Commissioners, and by people going and telling people what they could put up and what they could show and what they couldn't show. And now we've got a minister of propaganda that we're getting ready to hire for $95,000 a year. And I can tell you this, I am not going to be kind to that person once he gets up and starts going against what I believe and what needs to be done. The minute I see an ounce of political on this, there's going to be trouble. That being the case, we're paying $95,000 for a position, and they're going to sit in the office in a little ball and collect their money. That's what it comes down to. This is something we don't need.
Would this person be available for like Sheriff's Department, news? I mean, we've seen all of this happening before our eyes. Would this person be the one that speaks for them too?
So from that perspective, I think we showed you the job description that we proposed. And it is more than just handling these meetings. It is handling all the communications for the different departments. Because the sheriff's office is an elected official, we would certainly offer that to the sheriff if they wanted that, but that would be up to the sheriff to do that. Since they're an elected official, I mean, we would not force upon them that they would have to use a county person because they don't work for the sheriff, right? I mean.
Okay, any other discussion before we take the straw vote? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay.
Did it pass?
Yes, 4-3. All right, the next one
You need to
is,
forewarn this individual that he's taking a very hot position. And the minute he gets out of line, I'm going to be on him like white on rice.
Or she?
So I hated to hear Commissioner Dethridge just make a threat of violence.
It was not a threat of violence.
You said snap their neck. So let me say to the board, this person would work for me.
Okay.
I mean, that's the way the county works. Unless they are appointed by the board, they work for me, and I'll make sure that they do what they're supposed to do.
Well, I don't run against county managers. That's why you let me finish. That's why I've laid off the county manager for the last several years. But I'm telling you this right now, if this thing starts becoming political, you're it.
And I accept that responsibility, Commissioner Richardson, and I know who I work for. I work for a board of commissioners, and my job is to support that board.
And how many do you work for, Mr. Mayor?
Sir?
How many do you work for?
I work for the board, which are seven.
seven individuals.
I certainly would hope that you wouldn't be running against me. I mean, I'm not here to run against anybody. I'm here to serve the board and do what the board asks if the majority of the board asks me to do. So.
All right, gentlemen, the next item is DSS, remodel of the conference room. I make a motion that we do that.
I'm ready to vote.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, you got that. 7. Economic development, the first one is expand the economic development specialist responsibility. And Brian, correct me, I think that Brad asked that we take all this off the table.
That's correct. The consensus that he and I had was to give him some opportunity to look at all this and decide what he felt was better. It was just too fast for him to get in and look at that. And if the board would just consider, giving him some grace as we go through this next year, once he comes back and says, I like this or I don't like this, and being able to at least make that presentation to you. So you could move past the economic development ones. Yes, sir.
Okay, now the part we've already approved for the ECU student, that would go in his expansion budget, right? Under economic development?
Yes.
Okay. All right, emergency medical service, senior paramedics.
Well, let me say this. I can understand the need from a management standpoint for emergency paramedics. I just want to be sure that this is going to be a person who's going to be held responsible. He's the person that you're looking at when something goes wrong, whatever happens. We're not going to do this club event where everybody circles the wagons. We've got an individual that's considered to be in charge, and that needs to be in his job description.
So Commissioner Richardson, to speak to that, there would be a process that would be run where they would evaluate those people to determine who would be considered senior paramedics, and yes, it would be a part of their responsibility for the management of that unit. So there would always be someone on that EMS unit who was in charge. I mean, essentially what you have right now is you have two paramedics if both of them are funded, or if both of them are on the truck, and you don't have someone who, you may have inherently somebody who steps up and says, this is what we need to do, but you obviously realize paramedics are pretty type A people, and what you don't want is, there needs to be some structure. So I appreciate your comments on that. But
I can support it on that basis.
Would you make a motion? What, would you make a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I'm going
Okay.
to support this.
Ed?
Second.
What?
The only question I have with it, is it possible, and Carney can answer this, is it possible that you're going to have two senior people on the same truck? Because now sometimes you got two paramedics. Is that possible?
I wouldn't necessarily say that it wasn't impossible. They would certainly work to try to make sure that we would not be doing that.
Okay.
That being said, if it is the only person we could do to fill a truck and make sure that a truck is running, we might do that. But they would be the last person we would put in place to fill a slot. We would look for part-time, we would look for other folks on shifts to do that.
And I would hate that you wouldn't do that, because the thing about it is it causes, if I'm a senior, he's a senior, it causes chaos.
Well, if that were to occur, if for some reason we...
And it
couldn't
will
find-
occur.
And it very well may. Then you know going into it, if I'm working on that truck, that's the senior paramedic assigned to that truck, then I'm not senior paramedic. I'm underneath that person on that shift that day.
So that'll be made
When I
clear.
go back to my truck, then I'm the senior paramedic.
Now, it's easy to fix with operating rules, and you just, even if you run into an unfixable situation where both of them are, two people are there and it's not defined, you just say the guy with the most seniority is the guy that's in charge. It's easy to fix.
Any other comments before we take the straw vote? Okay, all those in favor of the classification, raise your right hand. Okay, unanimous? Unanimous, Brian. Okay, emergency management, the Sydney dive team, they're requesting an annual allocation increase of $2,500 to cover operating costs. I'll make that motion. I move that we add $2,500 to the annual allocation.
And that makes it what?
Brian, is it 10?
10 plus 25.
Okay, 10.
You currently fund them at 10, and they've asked for an additional 2,500.
Okay, it will go to 12.5. Any other comments? All right, all those in favor of raising the allocation by $2,500, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay.
So I saw that as a 6-1.
Yes. The emergency management Sydney dive team, they're requesting specialized training for the new helmets that they've got. And, okay, we got a motion. This is a one-time funding. Any comments, questions? Okay. All those in favor of adding $5,000 for specialized training one time, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 5-2.
I'm no, 6-1.
6-1, okay. All right, the next item is the 911 Communications Center. The Sheriff's Office has requested an expansion I say an expansion, add 2 new positions at a total cost of $10,000.
No, you got your zeros wrong. 100,000.
100,000, I'm sorry. What did I say, a million?
No, 10,000.
10,000. Okay, 100,000. My progressive lens were not right. Any recommendation?
I think we ought to wait for the new sheriff.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my question. What do we do with these things if the person coming in, whoever it may be, decides that this is not the way to go? I don't know.
Do we have a motion to add the 2? Okay, there is none. All right, the next item from the sheriff's office is to increase the deputies by a total of 4. This is for the patrol.
I motion for 2.
Okay, we got a motion for 2.
I think we ought to wait for the new sheriff.
Okay, any other discussion? My only comment is based on what's just happened in Texas, and with the fact that we have school resource officers that are under a contract with the school system. I just think it makes good sense for us to have an additional deputy on each side of the river during school. So, all right, any other comments on 2, adding 2? All right, all those in favor of adding 2 deputies, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. All right. Next item is the tax collector. This is upgrade the customer service rep to a delinquent tax specialist. Initial cost $3,500. The total offset of income is $150, so it creates an additional revenue stream of $146,500.
Motion to approve it.
Got a motion to approve. Discussion. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, that passes. Tax assessor, upgrade the customer service rep to a senior customer service rep. Initial cost of $3,654 with a positive revenue of 10. So the additional revenue offset would bring the cost or negative cost of $6,320. Motion to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Tax assessor, business personal property audits, cost of $30, generate revenue of $90. So the net effect would be $60,000 in additional savings.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Any comments? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Again, all those in favor? Jerry, or
We voted for it.
you did? Okay, well, we're just trying to make, did you get that?
Yeah, I show a 7-0 vote on that.
6-1.
6-1.
I'm sorry, okay.
All right, we're down to tax assessor, the
Hey,
request.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, Anita needs to catch up real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She's working the spreadsheet.
I'm sorry.
You can give us just a couple minutes. So
It-
let me go back and confirm what I had, and that was on the tax collector, the upgrade in the position was 7-0,
Yes.
and the tax assessor, the upgrade in the customer service was a 7-0.
Yep.
On the audits, it was a 6-1, and Commissioner Rebholz, you voted in the negative for that. Thank you.
Anybody need to take a break, quick break? Anybody want to sing?
What's that?
Please, no.
Randy, are you good? You've already turned it down, did?
What saying?
Yeah.
No, I ain't saying.
How about you, Jerry?
Okay, we're good. good.
Okay, we're good. All right. The next item is from the tax assessor's office, a requested aerial maps. And refresh me, is this for 2 or 3 years?
This is a 3-year period, and the tax assessor brought back a new number to you at 39,354
Okay.
instead of the 47,690. But this is, you would be entering into a contract for 3 years because that's
You know, I see the need for it, as he described, for revaluation of updating photographs, but look, the state runs these things every 2 years. We're a small county. It's not like we were developing at a rapid pace. Things don't change that much. They don't move that much. I'd be willing to approve his original amount for one run for 1 year and not 3, because 3 it's just not needed.
Brian, you don't cover, isn't it a 3-year period to cover the entire county?
No.
It's not.
It's broken down, the cost is broken down over 3 years. This is one flight.
Paid over 3 years? No, I thought, that's not what I thought.
$39,000 a year,
Sir?
$39,000 a year for 3 years.
Right. We're paying the cost of doing an aerial flight of the entire county, and we're spreading it over 3 years. So this isn't flying it every year. This is, the way Lloyd had it set up was, we would be in the off years, so the state is every couple of years, we would be in the off years, so there'd be a year in between. But yeah, I mean, it's expensive, but they've come down on the price, and they allow us to do it and pay it over 3 years.
So it really gets to the fact that it's part of the revaluation, because it gives them access. If there's a question that comes up, they can look at the area to see if a new building is being constructed.
He's getting stereo out of this, so.
That's right, they're getting obliques out of this.
He's getting obliques out of it, so he can do a lot with it, but by the same token now, I'm confused about how this thing works.
What is that?
Whose phone is that? Is that your phone, Steve?
So if you'll look on page 246, you'll see in his proposal, it's page 246, it shows $143,068 total over 3 years. And he was showing $47,689.50 a year for 3 years. So the total is $143,068, but we were spreading that cost over 3 years. Now, he did get a better number, and that was $39,359. So if you multiply that times 3, that's your total cost. But flying aerials is expensive. I mean, and it's different. These are different aerials. These are aerials that are flown through smaller, lower, slower flying airplanes. I think the Cessnas fly these instead of the big ones that hit them really quick. So they do get the ability to look at all sides. You can take it and spin the house around and see all sides of it, turn it down a little lower.
It's a Google flight.
It's a good tool for the tax assessor to do his job. I think he expressed that to you, but it is, the total is the 39,354 times 3.
And we're getting one flight, one time.
Well, you get that one flight, and during that time period, if there's a hurricane or something that causes significant damage, it's my understanding, because I remember when Bobby had this conversation with them, they'll come back and fly that specific area for you for free. So if we had a landfall where it took out a bunch of stuff, then because we were under contract with them, they'd come back and fly that area that got hit so bad for free for us while we were under contract with them.
Well, you know, the question you ask yourself is, what do assessors do? You know, we don't have that many buildings. If you're out there doing assessing every day, and, you know.
Well, you know, if somebody does the work on their own and they don't ask for a building permit, there is no way to pick it up unless the assessor just pops in and looks at a piece of property.
How that happens?
Well, if you do it on, how many parcels do we have? I mean, isn't this roughly $3, a little less than $3 per parcel?
Over 12,000 or so parcels, I think. Is that right?
No, there's more than that.
I'm sorry.
I mean, we got 22,000 that have the solid waste. Lloyd, how many parcels do we have? Now, we're not asking for a speech, we're asking for a number.
Just a number.
Just a number, Lloyd, just a number.
How many parcels?
47,000, give or take, 46 some change.
Okay, so since he's here, did I misstate any of those? If I did, please correct me.
Yeah.
I had it on as I walked up, sorry.
We're basically saying the cost of the aerial maps for the 3-year period is roughly $3 per parcel.
That sounds right. I got it down to,
39.
I got it down to 39, but it would be paid over 3 years for the one aerial flight for 3-inch photography and 9-inch photography.
Sorry.
One flight, but they'll come back and fly if we have an event.
That's correct. And they'll also hold to that price if you want to fly it again the next time.
Okay. I think we got enough information. Is there any other questions, Hood? Anybody have a question?
I got a question.
All right.
If you go 1 year instead of 3, what is the cost?
3 times 39.
You would have to pay the entire amount, the 140, the 143. They're just letting you spread it up. They're letting you do an installment purchase over 3 years.
They're taking this to their bank and,
They're just not charging the finance charge.
yeah. Okay.
I don't know how they're.
One question, is this available on our website for,
I think what Lloyd had mentioned to the board when he made the presentation was that, yes, they would eventually move that in that direction to put it out there.
We can make it public access, yes, sir.
Okay. Ready for a straw vote? All those in favor of doing the aerial maps?
Is that 3 years or 1 year?
well, it's 3 payments.
We do it all in 1 year, we pay for it over 3. Equal installments. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, those opposed? All right, 6-1. Thank you, Lloyd.
You can turn the TV off.
You think you better stay?
Okay, all right, we're down to outside agencies. The first one is the Aurora Fossil Museum. They're requesting a one-time allocation of $11,979, and that's for security equipment.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we got a motion to approve. Questions?
Well, they've been getting all kinds of grants down there and everything else. I mean, I don't know why we need to fund this. We're already funded them in another place, so why do we need to pay for this again?
Well, this is a one-time investment, and by the way, it goes way beyond just security for the Fossil Museum. It goes all the way down to City Hall on one side and all the way down to Fifth Street on the other side.
Then the city should be paying for it.
Well, the only person you're going to call for security is the sheriff.
Well, that all may be true, but I see it as a waste of money.
Okay, any other comments? All right, all those in favor of the security equipment for the Fossil Museum, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, fails. All right, outside agency, Beaufort Hyde Martin Library, they're asking for an increase in their annual budget from us of $4,488. Got a motion to add the $4,488.
Well, the only comment I add to that is, and I've been working on this for 20 years, when are we going to sit down and look at libraries for the whole county instead of these little specialized areas that very few people use?
So great timing on that, Commissioner Richardson. At your next agenda meeting, we have received the contract for BHM Regional Library for the county to consider being a part of again. It is a 10-year contract, and you have to notify them by July 1 if you intend to get out of that contract, and you have 12 months before it takes effect. But if during that 12 months you decide, no, I want to stay in, you can. So on the June agenda, I'm going to bring that to you and ask you where y'all want to be. Like I say, if there was ever a time, if the board decided they wanted to do something different, whatever that may be, you would need to do that within this, by July 1, because we're getting ready, they're asking for a new 10-year contract.
Okay.
Your timing is good.
Any other comments before we take a straw vote? All right, all those in favor of increasing the budget by $4,488. Those opposed? Okay. Next, outside agency, Eagles Wings is requesting $3,000 in additional funds.
I'm not going to vote on this because I do some work for Eagles Wings.
Okay.
How will that impact you economically? I think that's the line.
If they take my work
Isn't that
away
the
from me,
major?
it will hurt me. It will harm my income.
I don't
I have
think
a
that's probably
financial interest.
falling in it. But
In whichever way, whatever. So I'm disclosing that.
Okay. My only comment, I'm not going to support it because we've got several food pantries in the county, and we're just singling out one, so. All right, any other comments? All right, those in favor of increasing it by $3,000, raise your right hand. Okay. All right, Highway 1764 Association, they're asking for a $5,000 increase in our annual funding. Entertain a motion to do that. Hearing none, going once, going twice, going three times. That's a no.
Mr. Chairman, let me back up. Was there a motion, did someone make a motion on Eagles Wings, or did it just die for no motion? There was no motion. Okay, that's what I thought.
There was a motion, out of vote. All right, the next one is outside agency, North Carolina Estuarium. They're asking for a one-time increase or a one-time capital budget for their update of IT equipment. I'll make that motion to do the one-time $15,000 for IT equipment.
Yeah, I'd like to say too that we got to keep some of these places up. There's a lot of people that go through that, and if it's deteriorating that there's nothing to see, people are just going to stop coming, and you never know when somebody, right, but it's all part of, that all helps with the other stuff too. So, I mean, if she can't even get emails for 2 or 3 days later.
Well, it also comes down to point of sale. I don't think that they're able to do the point of sale like you and I normally do when you're someplace by sticking a card in there and
That's right.
so forth. To me, I'm in favor of it because I feel like they are an economic boom or driver for the city as well as the county. Any other comments? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. Fails, Brian, 3-4. All right, the next item is the Open Door Community Center. They're asking for, she corrected that the other night and said they were actually asking for $3,000. Did I make that right, Brian?
Yes, sir. There was a discrepancy there, and she said it was for $3,000. Yes, sir. And you
Okay.
got the information that I sent.
The city's doing
How much
two?
the city? Yes, sir.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to do that?
Tell me what Open Door does.
Open Door is a women's homeless shelter, women's and children's. No, it's not domestic violence, that's Ruth's house. So Open Door it is similar to
Zion,
Zion Shelter for Men's. Yes.
but best described as a homeless shelter
Yes,
for women.
women and children.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Didn't
Any-
Dot Mode have a lot to do with this? I think she did.
She did, you know. I mean, they bought the building from us.
Used to be a medical practice.
It was. And so, yeah, they bought the building from us, turned it into that.
It's right next door to Bayleaf Plantation,
Who's us?
County.
It was a county-owned facility.
Hospital someplace.
Yeah. It was part of the Vidant property, right? Okay. Any other comments before we take a vote? All right, all those in favor of the expansion to open door annual allocation of $3,000, raise your right hand. Those opposed? You want us to do it again?
That was 3-4, I thought.
Yeah.
3-4 didn't pass. And I had Waters, Langley, or
Walker. You were,
I was positive.
okay, so we had 3 positive, 4 negatives, okay. All right, gentlemen, turn over to the back side. The next one is outside agency. This is Roos Haas. They're asking for a $2,500 expansion of their budget. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right, we'll move to the next one, outside agency, the town of Chakawinity Recreation. They're requesting $134,607.
I'll put it out there, see that vote, yeah, I do that. I'd like to ask some questions about it, whether we could loan them that kind of money to do this thing, but I would just put it out there to see how it goes.
Well, one of the things we've done in the past, and I can't recall who it was, but we have done some one-time capital outlays over the last 7 years, I know in the budget. And I think the largest amount was $10,000, but it was one shot, and that was to build like a concession stand or press box or something physical there.
I would like to see us find a way to help them in some fashion get those lights put up so that they can expand their operations and provide more services to more people.
You know, part of the problem with all of this is this is a taxing authority. I mean, you know, Richard Nixon started this mess way back when with grants, and we've been working our way out of it for the last 50 years. So, you know, I'm not going to support something like this. They can levy taxes and borrow money and do whatever they want to do. Why should somebody in Pantego give money to Chakawinity? I haven't figured that out yet.
But the thing about it is that 90% of these kids don't even live in that city that's participating. They don't even live in the city.
Then they need to raise their rates.
What the rates is us, because they're county kids. I mean, if you go over there and look some Saturdays, Chakawinity ain't got about 1,000 people in the whole city, and the 400 kids out there some Saturdays. But I don't, just call it.
Well, I'd just like to argue one thing, because I know a little bit about this kind of thing, participating in the recreation department for years. As a coach, I will say this, a lot of these places would not be able to field teams if it wasn't for the county residents. The county residents pay a higher rate. They come to the cities and they spend money. That's a good thing. Now, we do offer money to all the municipalities, and we should continue to do that at our going rate, even in this tough year. So I'll agree with that, but no, not this elaborate amount of money for the lights. I mean, there's a group that wants to help them, great. Chakawinity wants to raise taxes, fine.
Just vote it up or down, that's all. We don't need no.
Okay, did you make a motion, the dollar amount?
What to ask for?
Oh, okay, 134. All right, all those in favor of giving them 134,000, raise your right hand. You smile when you do that, when you did that. But anyway, okay, I'll make a motion that we do a one-time contribution of $10,000 for lights.
You do realize when you do that you're going to have to give Aurora $10,000, you're going to have to give all these other little towns the same amount of money. I think we've been working our way out of this for 60 years. Let's don't make it any worse than it is.
Well, here again, Hood, I know that we've done some of these one time. We're not increasing anybody's amount, but, you know, the cost is, I think, was $40,000 total.
Well, under our Christian religion, because you sin one time, you don't have to keep sinning. You can get absolution by just not doing it anymore.
Well, I'll stick with my religious beliefs.
They're not Christian, man.
Well, I would say we don't need to go there in their discussion.
done it to the least of them who did it.
Okay,
I think we need to come up with a number that just give it to the recreation, not maybe as big as that, but, because you give it to one, it's not fair to the ones you're not giving it
They're
to.
already getting us started.
Okay, well, guys, let's go to the high schools. We just contributed $150,000 to Washington High School. Do you want to do that in the south side and north side?
No.
Well, why? Yeah, why?
Well,
I mean, it's recreation.
I know, but everybody gets a little bit along all.
All right, and that's the same point here. That's the same point here, Randy.
Okay.
Same point. Well, you're not going to vote for it anyway, so.
No, that's
Okay. All right, all those in favor of the one time of $10,000, raise your right hand. Those opposed. Did you vote?
I had something else in mind.
You got a conflict?
No. I had a different proposal I wanted to make.
Okay. Well, it's not too late. Yeah.
Well, I'm telling all these other places, get in line, you deserve your fair share.
If they want to put up lights, I would be the first one to vote for it.
So, Mr. Chairman, that was a 4-2 in favor, correct?
Yes. Langley did not vote.
Yeah, but I'm for it.
Okay, so it's 5.
All right. So we got 5. Okay.
What are you gonna do, Lang?
I want to make a proposal.
Okay.
And it encompasses more than one thing. You took care of the lights, but I also wanted, my proposal is this, is $10,000 for extra wearing, $6,000 for security at Aurora, and I was adding in $10,000 for P.S. Jones Museum. That's what I'm putting out there.
Well, now, we've already voted on these other ones.
I like that on.
Yeah, but now I'm sticking it back out that didn't pass.
Yeah, but if you've already voted on it, if they is gonna move along.
If
If you're gonna do that, I've got some stuff I wanna bring up and go.
Well, yours ain't gonna count because you don't vote for the budget.
It doesn't matter whether it counts or not, I don't have the right to keep you here all night reconsidering.
Okay. Any change in the Chakawinity Recreation? You got me lost here. Is there any change in it?
No.
Okay, all right. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
All right, the Town of Bath Recreation, $2,000. Just want to give you, the other night, you looking, or we're good? On the Town of Bath Recreation, I hit this by chance the other night. I was looking for somebody at the school to send a Rulerton application to, and they had a list of the scholarships. And for the first time, the Town of Bath Recreation Department was offering 2 $1,000 scholarships. And for the first time, it said new in brackets. So, I've never heard of a recreation, and you guys correct me if you've heard of it, I've never heard of a recreation department providing scholarships. Most of the time, and there's a change in command, and they passed up on doing their big fundraiser that they've done for years and years, which was a big fundraiser. So I just given you that for background. Anybody want to make a motion to give them the $2,000?
Well, we just keep giving and giving and giving in this stuff and all this giving away scholarships and all this sort of stuff. Give. I just think the people that are out there earning a living are getting enough of give.
Well, the only comment I'll make when it comes to recreation is that when you go to, whether it's, and I've been to Bath, I've been to Chakawinity, I've been to Washington, I've not been to Aurora, and I've not seen anything going on in Panzega. But when you go out there and you see the number of kids that are involved, it is positive. I mean, we talk about things going on in the world that are real negatives. I mean, we're giving people something to do.
Well, it's not up to us to provide recreation for people. That's not a legitimate function of government. Was never intended to be a legitimate function of government. So, why are we robbing taxpayers so we can do that?
Well, this has been going on ever since. The first year I was a commissioner, I asked how we came up with allocation. They said we started that when President Johnson was in office. So,
I think Nixon's.
Was it Nixon?
Nixon started it as a grant, as one of his grant programs.
Okay, anybody making a motion on the town of Bath recreation?
Yes, thank you.
All right. No, I'm not.
Me?
Oh, you are, okay, okay. Any other comments? All right, all those in straw vote in favor of giving them $2,000, raise your right hand. Those opposed? All right. Outside agency, the Humane Society of Beaufort County requested $10,000 in, well, we don't give them any money now, so I'm assuming, Brian, they're asking for 10 reoccurring
Yes, sir.
every year?
Yes, sir, that was a request for recurring 10,000 for that, for the program dealing with spay neuter feral cats.
All right, you want to make a motion?
Well, it's not a bad program, and it saves us money. What I'm trying to figure out right now is how we can put some controls on this. I mean, if you give them $10,000, we say it's for that program. How do we know that they spent it on that program? I think we ought to find some way to say so many in a certain amount of time, because it does keep cats out of the pound.
So, Commissioner Richard, what I would say to you is, we can certainly have them provide an accounting to us that would show what they spent that for, to ensure that that's what it was. I'd be careful about us getting too deep into their program, because we don't want to take any liability for their program.
Yeah, I understand. I don't have a problem with that. Why don't we, I'll make a motion that we approve it, providing they present us with a quarterly report of how the money is spent.
In their application, they say the money will only be used to pay the veterinarian expense. So they ought to be able to give us that.
Yeah.
Somebody's still, okay. So we currently do that, like with our current North Carolina spay neuter program, they do an accounting for us, so it's not something out, they can do it. It'll be easy for them to do.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we do it.
Are you capping it at 10?
Yeah, I'm capping it at 10, absolutely.
All right, any more discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 6-1.
So, like cats, I guess.
No, it's taxpayers' money.
Well, you guys are doing a real good job of it. I'm over here with that. You're spending a lot more than I am.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would take you to page 339, which is the water fund, and what I understand from the board on the 5% COLA, everything else, and you simply match up against the water fund and the sewer, and the, I keep saying sewer, solid waste fund. So my assumption is you're including the 5% which you approved for general fund, and none of the other things, because none of those other things passed.
So, okay, we'll take a straw vote, is that?
That would, yes, sir.
All right. Need a straw vote on the 5% COLA for the water fund.
Most to approve,
Okay.
How much is that gonna be?
5%.
Well, it would be 73 less. You didn't break it down. Well, there's no reimbursement there. I'm sorry.
There's no reimbursement from that side, so it would be a full 73,110.
All right. Any more discussion? All those in favor of taking the straw vote to do the 5%, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, 5-2. All right, you want to go to solid waste?
Yes, sir. So then if you turn to page 343, that's where you pick up solid waste. And again, you have the solid waste fund 5%. And then you have some additional programs in there that you may want to consider.
Okay, gentlemen, we take these one at a time. Those in favor of the 5%, which the cost is $23.53.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 5-2. All right, and same thing, no reason on the dental or the 401. The next item is solid waste, is the enforcement officer part-time with a cost of $25,000. Any motion to do the part-time? Going once?
I don't mind doing this, but I would rather see it be a part of the ordinance when we pass the ordinance, because that's what has the teeth in it. I don't want to just put it in the budget. So we
Okay.
get the ordinance and pass the ordinance.
Is that the one for the trash policeman?
Yeah.
Yes.
You can certainly do that. We wouldn't move forward if the board said don't. I mean, it would help us to go ahead and allocate funds, instead of coming back to you mid-year.
Well, on that basis, I don't mind allocating the funds, providing the person's not in place until the ordinance is passed.
If that's the desire of the board, then we can certainly do that. We would.
I'll end my motion, the trash column, yeah.
I think we need to wait until the ordinance is passed so we get a better understanding exactly what we expect this individual to do. Otherwise, we're sort
Well,
of,
the ordinance is going to define what he's to do.
well,
Well, the manager wants it in the budget, so he doesn't have to go back and amend the budget.
We're going to go ahead and pass this now in a straw vote, and then.
I'm just scared of this.
Well, based on their efforts to have the highway cleaned up, is that clean? Has everybody come and picked up their trash yet?
I think some folks have. Christine, have y'all been by there recently?
DOT came by and did the thing up.
So DOT.
DOT did, okay.
And of course, they have that program. That's part of what they do on state right away. So we're happy to handle that any way you'd like to. Don't let me say it's easier for us to do that, because we can certainly bring you back a budget amendment that allocates that once the ordinance is passed. However you want to do it.
I'm personally not in favor of doing it right now. I'd rather for it to be part of passing the ordinance.
I can live with that. I'll withdraw my motion.
I mean, I think if we do it, we've got to have somebody to enforce it.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think what I'm hearing the board say is that you are, I don't have a majority, I don't think yet, but that maybe a majority of you are okay, because if you're going to write the ordinance in a way that has an enforcement officer, you would want to know that, because if you came back and laid out and you said, no, we're not going to fund the enforcement officer, right?
Yeah.
So there's generally a consensus of the board that when that comes back, you will support a part-time solid waste enforcement
Yeah.
person. Okay, thank
There's
you.
no point in doing the ordinance unless you do it.
Okay, the next person is the recycle, part-time, cost of $25,200.
I don't think that's a person.
no.
That's a program.
Okay.
That's right, it's a program to where, when they talked about it the other day, so there's a cost. It costs us to send recycling out. Nobody's buying recycling anymore. Now, maybe one of these years when the markets get straight, maybe, when oil is more expensive, it becomes better to recycle. But when oil is cheaper, they just make new stuff. So this program would allow for that much funding for us to accept recycling and sell it, or pay someone to take it away from us.
Okay.
I'd like to say something.
You want to make a motion to put that in the budget?
No, don't. I'd just like to say something. Everybody else talks, I'm going to talk. It's a program. The program, to me, is designed to get people back into recycling. It's going to take an education process for the public to get back into it. I'm not so sure that this is the way to do that education process. I think that's going to be part of it, but I think you're going to need a larger declared program in order to get the public back into doing it. As far as the market should already be there now for the plastic, but it's not there because the markets are out of whack because of bad inflation and just a complete loss of understanding of how economies work. And we have a federal government, an executive branch right now who hasn't got a clue what they're doing. And it's not going to get any better until there's a change. So I'm not looking forward to do this piecemeal. I want a full program in order to get recycling going again. And then we'll know whether we need to join in with this group or that group and what we need to do. I mean, I like the idea of getting people going in that direction. I just don't think a small program will get us any closer to getting the people oriented to the recycling tasks that it's going to take.
Let me ask something that you might could use this money for. Is there such a thing as a trash camera program? Have you ever seen a trash camera? There's a place in Beaufort County that you drive by, and they've got a great big sign up that says, notice, trash camera in use. That is a marvelous idea.
Voice of America.
Maybe we ought to bring that back and think about having some trash cameras.
The problem is when we put those out, they shoot at them.
Okay, gentlemen, back to whether we want to move forward with recycling program.
One more thing about that. Would it be wise to wait until we do get the super site? And that would, that would be a component of that super site would be what you would say would just be the way to unveil. And by then, maybe the market will be right or wrong, up or down.
Well, since you're speaking to me, you're looking at me, you're speaking to me, I reckon. I think, it'd be a good idea to wait. There could be some ARPA money that could be used now, we're finding. I mean, I was in favor of us using the ARPA money from the get-go. Broadband was all the rage. But now we're finding that some of that money can be used, and maybe we can allocate more money to get towards a recycling program even before we get the mega sites. So therefore, it could fit into where the mega sites are. And if we have a recession like I think we're going to have, it's going to cost a lot less to build these mega sites than what we're being quoted now. A whole lot less.
Okay, anybody want to move this program forward? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right, we're down to the collection site repairs phase 2. The estimated cost is $186,000. I guess the question comes up to our chief financial officer and county manager. Now that we know we can use ARP money, is this something we could consider going back and changing that as it relates to ARP?
So yes, you can use ARPA funds the way, at the last minute they came in and said you can show it as a revenue loss, even though you didn't have a revenue loss. And then you can take those funds and apply them to an existing program. So what we're doing is we're showing that as an offset to our public safety services that were provided during the pandemic. That then frees up the money that you had already allocated for those salaries, and it goes to fund balance. So you then can use it for anything you want to use it for, or anything that you're allowed under the statute to use it for. So it has to be a public purpose. So, and it takes away any of the time restrictions. It's essentially additional money, just like we did with CARES money. So yes, you can do that.
What's the wishes of the board?
I make a motion that we include all of these collection site repairs, and including the mega site planning, that we take it from the ARP money that is now going to be put into the fund balance.
So moved. Yeah, second.
Well, there's a lot of money in there on mega sites. I think we need to look at mega sites a little differently, because I don't understand how you spend $275,000 for master planning for mega sites. And I also don't understand how we spend another $202,000 for selection of sites, because I could probably select them in one afternoon. So,
Well, it doesn't mean they get done.
well, but the money, you got $475,000 here of something that should be done for $100,000 or less. I mean, there's too much money in it.
Does that $202,000 include the cost of the land?
No. We need to separate. We need to take these. I don't mind putting the 2 solid waste things for repairs together and approving those, but the mega sites we need to discuss separately.
Well, gentlemen, the question that's on the table, do we want to put any of this in the budget? I mean, we can take it up for ARP. I mean, that can be done later. We're just deciding right now if we want to do it, since this is a budget workshop.
Well, once you put it in the budget, it's approved to go forward and do it. You can put a tag on it that says it has to come back for particular approval, but, John
you know, I would really like for you to withdraw that, and let's take the first two and group them together.
Why don't you just say the most cost-effective way?
Well, on the first two, but I want to talk about mega sites separately, because there's too much money in there. That's way too much money.
Well, one of the other things that we got to keep in mind is in the reserve for solid waste, we have 700,000. So that's another way that we can pay for part of these costs that we're talking about.
Well, I'm still arguing to not to appropriate that $475,000 for the master planning and master planning. That's way too much money.
Didn't Vance go through all this with us?
No, he didn't go through the amounts of money.
What about money?
He went through it. We see what he's doing, but
I think there was a forecast in his discussion. Okay, I'll withdraw the motion and we'll just put it, this whole thing is too complicated right now. You're talking about using ARP money and talking about using reserves. I think we got to better identify where the money's going to come from. Right now, you're just putting it into the budget, right?
Well, you're talking about not putting it in the 23 budget.
Correct.
Okay.
well,
So you want us to bring you back something as a whole that would look at all this as a program and then tell you what the costs were, answer all those questions that you may have, maybe have Vance come again and do some work, and then look to fund that with a budget amendment by using ARP funding, which would be outside of the general fund budget.
yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Or we could, I mean,
That's the motion.
okay.
Just as he said it.
All right.
So that just simply means we're going to bring it, I don't know that you necessarily need a motion, we're going to bring it back to you. We won't put it in this budget right now. We'll bring it back to you as a program that has it all. We'll do another presentation, we'll lay it all out and show you how you can use those existing funds, and we'll make a budget amendment to do it.
Are you good with that, or you want a motion?
Good with it.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
Yes. Yeah.
Consensus, all right. Okay. What else is on the table, Brian?
Essentially, that's all. Anita's been working on the spreadsheet. You want to give them the update on the spreadsheet? There you go. Thank you.
I can't see it.
So essentially, Anita's written out everything based on the pluses and minuses. And you're to the good 124,882. So if there's nothing else that you want to do, you could roll that 124 to fund balance. Or you could add to contingency. We currently have 100,000 in contingency. You could add that to contingency. It can't be spent because it's in contingency without board approval. Or you could just let it roll to fund balance. However you want to move forward on the balance. But
Which number are we talking about now? I'm lost.
the delta, where you see it says delta and highlighted in yellow, so their revenues after adjustments is 68,936, 979, and the expenditures after the adjustments that you've added are 68,812, 097. So the difference is a positive. So there's still revenue over expenses in the amount of 124,882.
That's to be added to the fund balance.
So you can either add it to fund balance, or you could add it into the budget, like in contingency. If you said, I want to hold it, and I want to hold it in contingency, that would make contingency 224,882, and it would still require board approval anytime you spend contingency.
Okay, Commissioner Langley wants to come back to his proposal.
Okay, my proposal is $10,000 for the estuary, $6,000 for security for Aurora, $10,000 for the P.S. Jones Museum, and the 2 deputies back in.
And how much much is that?
All right, you can have you say that one more time. 10,000 for the estuary.
Whoa, we hadn't voted on it yet.
We're running the numbers. We got
Oh, okay, okay.
10,000 for the estuarium,
6,000 for Aurora,
6 for Aurora,
10 for PS Jones.
10 for PS Jones.
The fossil museum,
No,
PS Jones.
PS Jones.
the 6,000 is Field Street.
No.
No, 10,000, 6,000's Aurora. 6,000
security.
Say Aurora, the museum.
Fossil Museum,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. And the two deputies, $60,000. Is that right? No. Is that right? No, it's 120. 120.
Okay, because I was looking, 10,000 is going down from the 15, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's the estuary. 6,000 is on the,
Aurora, Fossil Museum.
and 10 for the,
PS Jones Museum. And the 120 for the two deputies.
and 120 for the two deputies.
All right, so according to Anita's spreadsheet, that takes you into the negative 21,118. You'd have to find 21,118 to fund all those.
21,000.
Sir?
You had 21,000.
21,118. You'd either need to appropriate fund balance, or you could decrease your contingency by that much. That's historically, I think, how the board's dealt with some of that stuff in the past,
But
but
we-
you hadn't taken a vote on it.
Yeah.
Right.
You're putting all those in one motion?
I am.
Okay. Discussion.
The discussion is, we've already voted against this 3 times, so we can just keep going and keep going. Commissioner Langley, I want you to remember when I bring stuff up in the future, over and over again, what you have done here tonight.
I'm good.
Anybody else? Okay. All right, all those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 4-3. Okay, does anybody want to reduce the contingency to get it, or do you want to take it out of fund balance? What was the do you remember the fund balance difference?
Yeah, I mean, our suggestion to you would probably be just take it out of contingency. It's the easiest thing for us to do.
That good?
So that's a consensus of the board, just to pull it out of contingency, lower the contingency amount.
I'll move that we lower it. All those in favor of lowering it, the contingency, raise your right hand. Those opposed?
Take it out of, I guess the whole idea is
No, this is just a contingency part. Okay.
Okay, so it's 5-2.
You're snapping everybody's neck?
So, Mr. Chairman, if that's the will of the board, we'll put this together. We'll make, as you know, what I do is I take I write another message essentially, and it's a spreadsheet, and it shows the pluses and the minuses that have occurred during the workshops. Then we'll bring that back to you. Anita and her staff will work on the budget ordinance that has all this, and we'll have this for you at the June regular meeting for you to consider after the public hearing if you wish to.
Okay.
So basically, just to summarize, the budget's going to stay essentially as it was. We've got about a 7% increase in spending, round numbers. But the wonderful news is taxes are not going up. They're not going to, they're just still taking your money and spending it, whether it's taxes or not. Voters need to look at spending, not tax rates. Spending is what's important.
Okay, you got any other business? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our budget workshop.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, all those in favor of the adjournment, raise your right hand. Those opposed?